Hey guys, today we're going to be checking out the brand new Kidrobot Sonic the Hedgehog collectible vinyl art. Let's get some dimensions on this guy. He is about 8.5 inches wide or long, and he is, if you go right to the tip of the flower, it is roughly about 7.5, 8 inches tall. When you get him out of packaging, he does come with different parts that you actually have to put together. For starters, you have your main base, which looks to be from Sonic the Hedgehog 1, the Green Hill Zone. You even got Sega right underneath there and Kidrobot. I like that it's got that pixelized look to it, and how the grass is different offset colors, but still in that kind of pixelized treatment. I like that. It does come with a flower, or kind of a sunflower that you can take, and there's a little hole at the top here that just plugs into place. It helps actually just to wiggle it in rather than forcing it in, and you get a pretty good secure fit. Putting Sonic on last is probably your best thing to do. Then you've got your, of course, your three yellow rings. And I find these don't sit as well into little hole areas of the base as much as the flower does. For these, I find the holes are almost not even properly established, that you have to actually really get those in there. And because the posts of the rings are clear, of course, that's the last thing I want to be doing is breaking those. So be very careful when you wiggle those in. And take the last ring and just wiggle that in as well. You can kind of get a little bit of clearance moving these around once you've got everything in place. And then there's a groove here at the very top of the base where you can take your Sonic the Hedgehog, and it doesn't really even peg into place as much as it just kind of sits in that slot. And in the process, it might actually butt itself slightly a bit to the rings before it rests in place. Actually, before we put him in place, let's look at the Sonic the Hedgehog. Sonic looks great here. You can see he's revving himself up, ready to speed down the hill here. The sculpt on Sonic is done very nicely, despite the fact that he is curled up as in a ball as much as he is, but you get a fully realized Sonic on both sides, painted very nicely and very cleanly. I don't see a lot of imperfections, even though like in the boots look like they're fairly clean. And then the spinning effect has been done with a translucent blue plastic, and they've even got little spiked areas all the way around it as he's revving himself up. And then underneath that is a slightly murkier translucent clear that looks like it's got a slight frosted look to it. That they've kind of given it almost a more dirtied look to give it that puff of smoke effect. And you've got some nice spikes sticking out from the back there as well. And then once you get everything in place, again, you just rest Sonic. You can kind of see the shape of the groove. You're taking basically the top rounded portion of this smoke, and that just kind of sits in place. It does a fairly good job of staying in place. I mean, banging it, he may of course topple over a little bit, but if you get him just right in that groove, it doesn't even it's not even friction applied. But you get him right in that groove, he seems to stay fairly good in that one place. And it's a great showpiece. This is one of the things that I would love to see Kidrobot do more of, is these little display pieces. Because imagining having a gaming room, you can imagine how cool this would look on a shelf or somewhere near, like especially if you had your Sonic games all out, your Sega Genesis console, if you still have that. I still have my Master System. Imagining if you had something like this on display with those, I think this would look really, really cool. It's not overly large, but I think it's the right size. Any bit smaller, I feel like you wouldn't get as much the impact out of it. Like if it was about half the size, like a smaller version of it, it would still be interesting, but I'm liking the fact that they kept the size big on it. And I think that's the key to why this is such a successful looking collectible. You can also take some of the rings out too. If you find like there's too many rings, you could even just leave the rings completely off if you want and have just Sonic standing at the top there. There's a little bit of customization to it. The holes don't become very apparent if you are taking the rings out, that you're not going to see big glaring holes. Again, a very successful piece from the folks over at Kidrobot. You can find this probably at your local comic book stores, but if you have a tough time finding a local comic book store, or you just want to find an alternative to going into a physical store, you can also head over to www.kidrobot.com, and they also have a store where you can pick up all these pieces for yourself as well. Today we were checking out the brand new Kidrobot Sonic the Hedgehog. This was the collectible vinyl art depicting, I believe, the Green Hill Zone from Sonic the Hedgehog 1. If you guys certainly like these videos, hit it with a like. Let me know down below what you think of these collectibles. And if you haven't had a chance to subscribe to this channel, don't be the person that says, I'm going to subscribe later. I'm going to be subscribed later. Don't be that Jimmy JJ. Hit that little subscribe button now. You won't miss a beat when it comes to future videos. And if you also like Kidrobot, I've done a whole ton of Kidrobot collectibles, ranging from Sonic the Hedgehog, South Park, and I've also done a whole ton of case openings as well. So if you're somebody that likes really long videos and somebody opening up box and box and box until they get an entire case done, I'm your man, and there's a playlist there for you as well. As always, guys, thanks for watching. See you next time.